This program was made possible by the Whitten Newman Foundation, Pros for Vets,
Pros for Vets.
Pros for Vets.
Pros for Vets.
Pros for Vets.
Fighting for you.
Fighting for you.
Because you fought for us.
Because you fought for us.
the Toby Keith Foundation, and FATE, Fighting Addiction Through Education, and the Chesapeake Energy Corporation.
He always wanted to be in the military since the time he was a little kid. And, Michael joined up, always wanted to do it, and there he went.
He hated bullies. He always protected the littler kids. He always protected the weaker kids. I think that's one of the reasons everybody liked him, because no matter who you were, whether you were the band geek or the football star, he'd be your friend as long as you didn't pick on somebody.
He was ready to go, you know. I mean, if any kid was ready to go in the military, it was him. When the deployment came up, you know, I mean, I went down to Fort Benning and graduated, and he was already assigned to the 101st before we got to Fort Benning. And that was kind of a big deal for me, because everybody all over the world knows what the 101st, you know, the Screaming Eagle, the Airborne Patch, everybody knows what that is. It's pretty, you know, it was a proud moment, you know, sending your kid to the 101st.
I served the 101st with Pokey, and we moved up to the ranks together, and we served in Iraq. He was a great soldier, but he was definitely the comedian of the group, without a doubt. If he was in trouble with you, he'd just crack a joke, and, you know, that'd be it. He'd just make everybody laugh, and trouble would just go right away. He came out one day, and our company commander was screaming because he was just enraged. And Pokey came out with his uniform completely on backwards. Came out and goes, "You know, I just feel backwards today." And the commander just laughed. He walked away, and he had to go back to his room, and he had a laugh. And that was the end of it. He took everything serious when it had to be. But, you know, when everyone was taking it too serious, and, you know, everyone was getting down or bummed out, you know, on holidays or whatever, he was always there to crack a joke or to just get you thinking about something else.
He loved what he was doing. The actual job, he loved the fact that he was making a difference.
The thing I like about David is, I mean, literally everything he did, he put 100% into. You know, at the time he was running track at OU, and, you know, just talking about track. I mean, everything he talked about, it was, you know, passion, determination.
He always knew from 9/11 that he wanted to go into the military. He felt like he had a duty to do that. Everyone at OU knew that that's what he was going to do.
But conversations would always lead back to military.
He finished and graduated in December of 2006 with a degree in criminology sociology, and his intent was to go into the military and serve his time, and then to get out and become a police officer like his father.
January of '07, he comes and tells us that I want to join the Army, go in as an officer.
He went to basic and was soldier of the cycle, which means he was the top soldier for the whole company with 100-something men. And then he went to Washington State, to Fort Lewis, to be a striker commander.
Initially, the 5th Stryker Brigade out of Fort Lewis were assigned to go to Iraq. Then 3 months out, they changed, you guys are going to Afghanistan. They were up in the Maywan Valley area and Argadon Valley. As soon as he said where they were at, I knew they were in a bad area. The 117th was getting hit hard. Well, David's unit You know, they were trying to close the gap over the mountains. They went and met with elders of this one village and was on their way back to their base. It was a wire that run through the sand into the village, a telephone pole. So as soon as the striker got even with the telephone pole, they knew to detonate it. We had heard estimates of it being 850-pound IED, which is tremendous. It blew the striker up in the air and inverted it, flipped it over. Just the blast concussion alone is probably what broke David's neck.
He was standing out of his hatch, and it was a blessing to us because he was killed instantly.
I was coming home a little after 3, and the soldiers was standing out by the mailbox. And as soon as I saw him, Michelle was at work. And that's the first thing that I thought, this is, oh my God. We gotta go tell Mom. That's a day your life changed.
We were in an area that wasn't our normal area. My team and I go off to go deal with the Iraqis. While we're talking about everything, I hear this explosion. I mean, it blurred my vision. I mean, it was the closest, loudest thing I had experienced to that point.
I'm being deployed again. You wanted to be a scout in the Marines.
He said, I'm going to be a war hero one day.
We're from a little town called Wacosia, Oklahoma.
It's a small community, a small school, Class B school in Oklahoma, real family-oriented.
It was wonderful because kids couldn't do anything that I didn't know by the time they got home.
I think we graduated with 10 people in our class. That's how small it was. From kindergarten to senior class, there's about 300 people.
Billy and Scott started in Head Start together. They went 2 years in Head Start and 12 years in school.
I think I was always a Rambo fan, and he was a Chuck Norris fan. So I was running around in the backyard. I was Rambo, and he was Chuck Norris. And one of our favorite things to do was to always pretend like one of us got shot. Like, oh, I'm hurt. No, I'm really mad. And then we'd come back and try to annihilate the enemy.
He had a gun that he drove his sisters crazy with. And Missing in Action, when Chuck Norris comes out of the water, Scott had that down pat. He would come out behind the furniture shooting with Chuck Norris and never miss a beat. He wore a bandana, just like Chuck Norris. So we named him Commando Chuck Rambo, is what we called him.
Even when we were in elementary, he always knew that he was going to be in the military. He had an uncle that was a war hero, and he always told me when we were growing up, I'm going to be a war hero when I grow up. The whole class knew it. Everybody knew. It's like, well, Scott's going to go into the military. That's just the way it is.
He had a hard time in boot camp. He left in July and was supposed to pass the test. Well, he couldn't pass one part, the physical part. 6 weeks he tried. On the 6th week, if he didn't pass it, they was going to send him home, which was my birthday. He passed. And we went out for his graduation, and I was talking to him, and I said, well, son, what would you have done if they'd sent you home? He said, I'd have went back. That's determination. He wanted to be a scout in the Marines, and that's what he was.
But I served with Vinny through 2 deployments. He'd just come off a deployment, and they said, because normally you don't have to do a back-to-back deployment, and they said, but we'll take volunteers. So he pretty much kind of came over just because he wanted to.
I get a phone call. Mom, I'm being deployed again. I said, son, you don't have to go. You're getting out in July. He said, I extended my time. I volunteered to go.
We were using LAVs, which are 14.5-ton 8-wheel vehicles. We'd had a few IEDs, but none of them had done much more than scratch the paint, literally. We were in an area that wasn't our normal area. They called for scouts out, so my team and I go off to go deal with the Iraqis, and this guy pulled up, this Iraqi, and he got out and started yelling at the vehicle. And I guess staff tried to listen, what's going on, and then the guy detonated. I hear this explosion, and then I turned around, and I saw this front clip of a car and an engine block skittering down the road. And I looked back to see the vehicle, and the vehicle's still there. It doesn't, because I'm a pretty good distance off from where I was at. Everything looked intact. There was no great fires. There was nothing, and I couldn't see anybody. Like I had no idea, and I just thought, and the side of the vehicle it was on, it was the opposite side from Vinny. So I thought, maybe everything's okay, because we'd had other stuff blow up, and just, it had really not done much. And as I got closer, I could see it was not the case, and it was, it was different. And the thing is, we all knew the risks, Vinny knew the risks, I did, or Scott knew, we all knew what we were getting into, and we all knew. But it doesn't always make it easier, especially right there at that time and at that moment. It just doesn't matter. His third deployment, he went back over because of me, because of Abear, because of Daniel, because several of us. He was really kind of done.
My husband answered the door.
When I seen him, I knew it was trouble, because they come to Mom and Dad's house. My brother Keith was killed in Vietnam, like 1968. So we know all about wars and what they bring. I kind of had reservations about him going in, but that's what he wanted to do, and far be it from me to stop somebody from fulfilling their dream, and that was his dream.
He always knew what he wanted, he knew his destiny. This is exactly what he was going to do, and they named the highway after him. They have the Scott Vincent Memorial Highway now, and he said he was going to be a war hero, and he is.
The first time he killed someone in Iraq, he called me that night. He was a 15-year-old boy. But this 15-year-old boy had an AK-47, was shooting a bus full of people. But it still honored him that he had to shoot somebody. And I think he just got kind of cold to it. He worked on checkpoints. If they didn't stop, you just kill everything in the car. It's just that simple. They either stop or you stop them. We met him down in the city one day. Kelly was there, and he was coming home for his mid-tour leave. 48 hours ago, you're in the middle of combat, and you're at IHOP in Oklahoma City. You can't adjust to that. And I think they fought the whole time he was here. Then he went back. And I could just see his different post-traumatic stress was just eating him alive. And I don't know that he'd ever come back, been able to be like he was. I don't think he would have been. He just couldn't be calm. He was always looking.
It was awesome to see him walk through those doors and just to be able to hold him and hug him. And yeah, it was amazing.
we decided we were gonna have a baby. So, got pregnant right away. He got home in January and I was pregnant by January 15th. He was the best dad ever. He would go in there, he was having to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work in the mornings, but he would still come in there and, help feed Gage at 2 o'clock in the morning.
I know the second time was very, very hard to leave his wife and family. It was very hard, and the war had gotten a whole lot worse over there at that time.
I do remember we were at my grandma's house, my mom's mother. I think it was like a couple months before he deployed, and he took my husband aside and told him that he wasn't going to come home. He just had a feeling. And I didn't know at the time that he told him that. But he knew in his heart that he wasn't coming home, and of course he wouldn't have told us that.
And we've got pictures of the night he left the last time with Gage and Kelly. And you can just see in his eyes that he's holding everything he can to keep from losing it. Because he don't want to leave that baby.
For a DVD copy of this program, please go to www.prosforvets.org and find additional stories of our fallen, as well as information about how you can get involved with honoring our veterans. All proceeds will go to fight for those who fought for us. This program was made possible by the Whitten Newman Foundation, Pros for Vets,
Pros for Vets.
Pros for Vets.
Pros for Vets.
Pros for Vets.
Fighting for you.
Fighting for you.
Because you fought for us. Because you fought for us.
The Toby Keith Foundation, and Fate, Fighting Addiction Through Education, and the Chesapeake Energy Corporation.